The lecture hall of the Imperial Academy shimmered with violet light as the hollow screens rippled to life, displaying scenes from ancient wars. Rows of young alien cadets from a dozen worlds leaned forward in fascination as Admiral Zelron, a towering Dracian with silver-scaled skin, lectured about the primitive combat methods of extinct species. "The humans," Zelron said, his voice a low growl that resonated through the room, "were a warlike race, unpredictable, emotional, and remarkably stubborn. They fought in ways that defied logic and tactical algorithms. Some claim they achieved victory through sheer willpower. Others call it myth." Lira Vehl, a young strategist in training from the crystalline world of Varus, raised one gleaming hand. Her crystalline eyes reflected amusement as she said, "Admiral, forgive me, but isn't that just ancient propaganda? Humans were eradicated centuries ago, weren't they? Myths of them biting, clawing, and screaming into battle. It sounds like dramatized folklore." A ripple of laughter spread across the cadets. Even the Admiral allowed a faint smirk. "Indeed, Cadet Vehl. Most scholars agree. But myths have power. And the story of the humans, well, it lingers for a reason." The hollow screen flickered to an image of a bloodied human soldier, armor shattered, holding a rifle like it was an extension of his soul. His eyes, those strange, soft organic eyes, glowed with something raw and terrible. Lira tilted her head, studying the image. Emotion over logic. "They must have burned out quickly," she said dismissively. "Perhaps," Zelron replied. "Or perhaps, they burned so brightly that the galaxy remembers the scars." Weeks later, Lira graduated top of her class and was assigned to the front lines of the Drax-Union border conflict. It was supposed to be a simple peacekeeping operation. Drive off insurgent raiders, secure trade routes, and return home in glory. But when her ship dropped out of warp near the scarred planet designated E19, things went wrong almost immediately. E19 was a world drenched in storms and dust. Massive lightning arcs flashed across a crimson sky, turning the ground to glass where they struck. Her squad's landing craft touched down in a valley that looked like a wound carved by gods. "Thermal signatures ahead," her lieutenant Jorten reported, his scales pulsing pale yellow with caution. "But they're not Draxian. Energy readings are erratic." "Erratic?" Lira frowned. "Like what?" Jorten hesitated. "Like organic-powered weapons. Slug throwers. Chemical propellants. That tech hasn't been used for centuries," Lira finished for him, eyes narrowing. "Deploy recon drones. Let's see what we're dealing with." The drones shot forward, emitting faint blue light. Moments later, one transmitted back grainy footage. Shadows moving through the dust, humanoid shapes, fast and deliberate. Lira leaned in closer. "Are those?" Before she could finish, the drone feed cut off, replaced by static. Then a voice came through the comms. Gritty, low, and unmistakably human. "Unidentified forces. This territory is under coalition protection. Drop your weapons and leave the valley." Lira froze. What did that voice say? Her second-in-command looked at her, uncertain. It said coalition. That's impossible. The human coalition was destroyed 500 years ago, Lira whispered. Her crystalline heart pulsed once, uneasily. Another transmission came through. "Final warning. Stay calm," Lira said, composing herself. "Probably automated defenses. Or pirates using old tech to scare us." But when the first shot came, it wasn't automated. It was a bullet, solid, physical, and fast. It tore through one soldier's armor like paper, dropping him instantly. Panic erupted as her troops scrambled for cover. Plasma bolts lit the valley, hissing through the storm. Lira's mind raced. The tactical overlay showed nothing. No energy signatures, no heat trails. Whoever was firing knew how to stay hidden. "Thermal sweep," she ordered. The scan flared with life. Dozens of red silhouettes moving in formation through the haze. Bipedal, armed, efficient. "Humanoids," Jorten breathed. "Impossible." Lira ducked behind a rock as another volley of gunfire slammed into the ridge. "Return fire," she shouted. Plasma beams tore through the dust, melting stone, but the enemy didn't break. They advanced slow and methodical. Through the storm, Lira caught sight of a figure breaking cover. A tall, broad-shouldered man in rugged armor. His face hidden beneath a cracked visor. He moved with impossible speed, firing bursts with an old ballistic rifle. When one of her soldiers tried to flank him, he pivoted, slammed the soldier into the dirt, and fired point-blank. "Is that a—" Jorten began. Lira cut him off. "Get me his biosignature. Now." The sensor pinged and returned a result so absurd that Lira almost laughed again. Species: Homo sapiens. Status: active. Heart rate: elevated. She blinked. That's not possible. But the man was already moving, coordinating unseen allies with sharp hand gestures. The humans fought like predators, low to the ground, coordinated without comms, adapting faster than her command algorithms could process. For the first time, she felt something alien curl in her chest. Unease. After 20 minutes of intense firefight, Lira's squad retreated to the landing craft. Half her troops were gone, and the ship's hull was riddled with holes. "What in the void are we fighting?" Jorten gasped, reloading his plasma rifle with trembling claws. Lira didn't answer. Her mind replayed the battle, the way the human had moved, his unrelenting precision, his refusal to yield. She'd read legends about humans going feral in combat, ignoring pain, fighting past exhaustion. She dismissed it all as exaggeration. But she had seen it now. The comms crackled again. "This is Commander Grant of the Terran Coalition," the same voice said, calm and steady. "We warned you. Leave E19. This world isn't yours." Lira stared at the console. "Commander Grant. You're saying you're human?" "Last I checked," he replied dryly. "Now get off my planet." Before she could respond, the connection cut. Lira turned to her crew. "Power up the engines. We're returning to orbit. Now." Hours later, aboard her flagship Varus Dawn, Lira stared at the holographic projection of E19. Sensor readings were inconsistent. The planet's magnetic field interfered with long-range scans, but what data they had suggested: underground installations, power grids, and atmospheric stabilizers, human designs. She called up her superior, Admiral Zelron. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady but tight, "we encountered survivors." Zelron's silver eyes narrowed. "Survivors? What? Of humanity?" The line went silent. Then carefully the Admiral said, "Cadet Commander Lira, I need you to clarify. Are you suggesting humans exist?" "Yes," she said, throat dry. "And they're not the myths we thought. They're alive. They're organized. And they're angry." For a moment the Admiral said nothing. Then his voice dropped to a growl. "Get me everything you can. If the humans truly survived the Great Purge, the entire galaxy needs to know." Lira nodded, but her thoughts were elsewhere. On that moment in the storm, when the human soldier had turned his visor toward her. She'd seen his eyes, pale and bright with fire. He hadn't looked like a myth. He'd looked like something older and truer, something that refused to die. As the ship drifted in orbit above E19, The storms below parted briefly, revealing the faint glow of cities hidden beneath the dust. And deep below the surface, in a reinforced command bunker, Commander Grant watched the alien fleet through dusty glass. "They've seen us," said another human soldier beside him. Grant nodded. "Good. Let them remember." 3 cycles had passed since the battle on E-19, and the galactic news networks now pulsed with a single burning question. Were the humans truly back? Lira Vehl didn't have the answer, not yet. What she did have were nightmares, of crimson storms, of her soldiers dying to invisible ghosts, and of one man's eyes burning through the chaos like suns refusing to die. Her fleet had been ordered to return to E-19, this time under full military sanction. 10 capital ships, 30 escort frigates, and thousands of troops. It was no longer a patrol, it was a purge. Admiral Zelron's voice crackled through the command channel. "Commander Vehl, you will accompany the ground assault. We cannot afford another retreat. If humans remain, they must be removed." Lira saluted but said nothing. As her shuttle descended through the roiling atmosphere once more, she couldn't shake the memory of that voice. Commander Grant, calm and certain. "Leave my planet," he had said. But it hadn't sounded like a threat. It had sounded like a warning. The valley looked different now. Fortified bunkers dotted the ridges, and automated turrets tracked the sky. As her unit landed, the ground shook from distant detonations. "Reading multiple energy spikes," Jorten reported. "They've weaponized the planet's core grid. It's human tech for sure, but centuries more advanced than the archive's record." Lira stepped out onto the cracked ground, plasma rifle in hand. Spread formation. No mistakes this time. They advanced under cover of the storm. First nothing moved. Then the sky roared. A missile trail cut through the clouds, slamming into the lead Walker unit. The explosion lit up the valley in blinding white. A second later, railgun fire rained down from hidden cliffs, tearing through armor like paper. "Ambush!" shouted someone. The troops scattered, returning plasma fire in wide arcs. But the enemy was already inside their lines. Human soldiers in heavy exosuits, moving like liquid shadow, each one striking with surgical precision. Lira caught a glimpse of the same man from before, Commander Grant. His armor was patched, his rifle scorched, but his movements were impossibly fast. Every motion deliberate, every strike devastating. He was not fighting to survive. He was fighting to win. Lira tried to coordinate her forces, but the humans adapted to every tactic before she finished giving orders. Her thermal scanners were useless. Their armor emitted false readings, masking heat signatures. Her forces were being dismantled piece by piece. And then the comms lit up with Admiral Zelron's voice, thunderous with anger. "Commander Vehl, the fleet is under orbital fire. Do you understand? They're firing upward from the surface." Lira froze. That was impossible. No planetary weapon could hit an orbiting fleet. But when she looked up, she saw it. Lances of blue light tearing through the clouds, slamming into the ships above. Massive explosions bloomed in the sky. The humans had planetary defense cannons. Ancient, hidden, waiting. "They planned this," she whispered. Her command unit was down to half strength when Grant appeared again, this time stepping out from behind a ridge. He wasn't aiming at her. His weapon was slung low. His visor cracked open to reveal a scarred human face. He looked tired, but his eyes were alive. "Stop," he said. "No more of your people need to die." Lira raised her weapon instinctively. "You're supposed to be extinct." Grant smirked faintly. "We're not very good at that." You could have left the galaxy in peace. Why hide here? She demanded. His gaze hardened. Peace. The galaxy didn't offer us peace. It burned our colonies, hunted us to the edge of extinction. So we disappeared, waited, rebuilt. We're not conquering. We're remembering. He stepped closer. Tell your admiral to leave. This planet is ours. Always was. Before she could respond, a plasma blast from her flank hit Grant square in the chest. He fell, armor sparking. Commander! Jorten shouted. Target neutralized. But Lira's stomach twisted. Grant wasn't dead. He was already pushing himself up, one hand braced in the dirt, eyes blazing with fury. He drew a combat knife from his belt, metal glinting in the stormlight, and charged. What followed was chaos. Too fast, too brutal. He moved through soldiers like a force of nature, his blade flashing, his breath steady. Plasma bolts grazed him, but he didn't stop. Even wounded, he fought like the myths said he would, without fear. Lira found herself frozen. The stories she'd mocked now unfolded before her eyes. A single human, outnumbered 50-1, fighting not to kill but to defend. And in that moment she understood. Humans didn't fight because they loved war. They fought because they refused to lose what they loved. When the dust settled, Grant lay on one knee. His armor cracked and smoking. Around him, the valley was silent. Her soldiers either retreating or dead. Lira approached slowly, lowering her rifle. You'll die if you keep this up. He gave a weak grin. Maybe. But so will anyone who tries to erase us. Her comms pinged again. Admiral Zelron demanding extraction. The fleet was in ruins. The humans had won. For the first time in her life, Lira disobeyed orders. She keyed her mic. Admiral, call off the assault. The humans are not an enemy. They're a warning. Have you lost your mind, Commander? Zelron thundered. They're a relic. Lira looked down at Grant, at the blood on his armor and the defiance in his eyes. No, she said softly. They're the reason we remember what courage looks like. The channel went dead. She turned to Grant, who struggled to stand. Your secret won't stay hidden now. He nodded. Then maybe it's time the galaxy learned what happens when you laugh at human myths. Days later, as the battered Varus fleet limped away from E-19, the stars behind them flared with human ships rising from the dust. Sleek, silent, deadly. The Terran coalition was no longer a rumor. It was reborn. Lira watched from her cabin window, her reflection pale against the starlight. She had come to the planet to destroy a legend. Instead, she had witnessed it awaken. And though she was no human, she felt something ignite in her chest, a strange, fierce respect. Perhaps the galaxy had laughed too long, because the humans were fighting again. And this time everyone would remember. Then,